Looking around, seems that I'm the oldest guy here, right? And as the oldest guy, you have the privilege of to say something like half a century ago. You can say that, and I love saying that. But actually, this is how I'm going to start my talk. Half a century ago, I was a senior in high school. I was senior in high school in public school in New York. Actually, precisely half a century ago, 1969. I was a high school senior in public school in New York City. Being a senior in American high school is a great thing. You don't have too much to do in that whole year. Because basically you have completed all your coursework. Everything is done and nothing left, basically. And I was just taking a few AP courses, advanced placement courses, because at that time everybody is so keen to finish college as soon as possible. So if you take your AP courses, you can probably get rid of the entire freshman year. You don't have to take anything thereafter. But for all the seniors, actually, especially for those of us who were going away for college, there's one single important agenda item, and that is to ditch the boyfriend or the girlfriends. So during that year, there were a lot of cryings and there were a lot of parties, but we had a good time on that. And besides that, we were taking the college boards, every one of us, and because we believe that the more times that we take the college boards, you improve your scores, your SATs, your achievement tests, and that would look better on your college application. And of course, we were all busy applying to colleges, filling out different college applications and so forth. It was a very important thing. Everybody was doing that. We got to go to college. But why do we need to go to college? We would start questioning. Because at that time, half a century ago, going to college was sort of the admission to the American middle class. I mean, this is your admission ticket to the American middle class. If you don't go to college, you can never get to that suburban utopia. So we were doing that, but now, looking, in the present day, when we start looking at what happened in the past, a lot of these things have changed. And a lot of these things, they have changed because of the technologies that have been developing. I mean, a lot of the technologies just don't happen all at once. It's just that, but different pieces came together in the last few years, and a lot of the things started to accelerate. And because of the advent of technology, we are seeing a lot of different changes now. People are questioning whether you really need to go to college. Some of the richest entrepreneurs in the world now never finished college. But in fact, even more important is that a college degree is not a surrogate anymore for all the requisite requirements for any particular jobs. But more interestingly, it has changed so much that the whole job concept is getting changed. Oxford University did a study not that long ago saying that in a matter of a decade or two, some 50%, some half of our jobs will be gone. Naturally, I mean, that had happened before, happened during the Industrial Revolution when manufacturing jobs started taking over from a lot of the agricultural-based industries. And at that time, people were worried. They leave their farms, are they going to have enough jobs for them? They did. And also in Hong Kong, if you can remember, back in the 60s, 70s, we were basically a manufacturing city as well. And we became a service city. Now 93%, 94% of our GDP is services. So that changed. But people go through a period of uncertainty, going from one phase to another. What are they going to do? And I think, and the Institute for the Future came up with another study saying that by the year 2030, which is not that far away, some 85% of the jobs at that time have not even been invented yet. So how are we going to prepare ourselves for that future? Because the future is still so uncertain. But so what this all involves is really goes back to education. We need to train our, to try to provide an education for the next generation, so that they could really face the future which is filled with a lot of uncertainty. How do we do that? Because currently the education systems that we have is really out of date, because basically they are still 19th century, using 19th century curriculum, basically from the industrial age area. If you just look at the classroom from a 19th century industrial revolution type of classroom, and the classroom, most of the classrooms that we have now, they're basically the same. So we are using 19th century curriculum and with teachers who are largely trained in the 20th century to prepare our future generation to face uncertainties and challenges in the 21st century. So it's not too difficult for you to see the dilemma that we are in. And it all has to do with education. So this thing, we would really need to change all of that. And it's not a simple thing to do. It's not a simple thing to do, because we need to change the entire system. It would be easier if the government were to recognize that and to do it on a top-down basis, because just send out an edict and change everything. But I have been a bureaucrat, so I think I'm in a position to tell you that as a bureaucrat, we know that governments, as well as particularly education departments, are like aircraft carriers, huge, massive. And you ask them to turn around. It takes a long time to turn around. And as they turn around, they set off a lot of waves. And a lot of these waves, I would see them as waves of ideology and things that we may not like to see when it does turn around. But it does take a long time. So I think it would, the matter would have to go to really to the communities, and which is, in fact, I think it's the appropriate thing to do. Edelman came out with a trust index. They do that every year, and then this year they came out with the trust index, and it's quite clear that people's trust in government, as well as in firms, enterprises, as well as in the media, have fallen consistently. But people are becoming more trusting in a lot of the non-government organizations. And I think the non-government organizations can start taking a much bigger role in reimagining what education should be like. And that's going to be a very important task. But they're not able to do it in a wholesale basis like the government will be able to do. They would have to do it a small slice at a time, coming up with different alternative types of education modality, so that this, and when all these little slices are added together, we may be able to see a movement for change. And it's actually against this sort of background that I founded a non-government organization together with Rachel last August, called Esperanza. Esperanza is a Spanish word that means hope. And our Chinese name is 薯片叔叔共創社. And it underlines collaboration, which is important. Originally, we wanted to call it 合作社, but we found out that 合作社 requires the approval of the chief executive. So I said, okay. I said, we should change the name. But it's okay. I think it really comes out with what we intend to do, and so 共創社 is good. And when we started with a lot of community meetups with different people from the community at different sectors, parents, teachers, school administrators, academics, NGOs, and so forth, and just to get a much better idea how they want this thing to progress. That went quite well. And then not a few months ago, we started with a sort of a pilot of a local Reimagining Education Challenge. We asked NGOs as well as some startups in Hong Kong to submit proposals to us of different alternative education suggestions. And we received a lot more proposals than we had expected, more than we can handle in a way. So we sort of slogged through that. And we had different levels of screening, and finally we found the 4 best proposals among them. And we're hoping these 4 sets of people to find mentors, to hopefully find some funders, and to try to help them scale up in this exercise. And hopefully we will be able to maybe, in the future opportunity, we can ask them to come here and tell you a little bit more about what they actually do. It's quite exciting. And meanwhile, we are also trying to raise some money because we want to do an international challenge next year. Try to bring in some suggestions from different parts of the world, not necessarily from the really advanced economies, but maybe from Nordic countries, from Eastern Europe or Southeast Asia, different places where they have morsels of good ideas to bring in. So we try to do that. And at the same time, we are now organizing some community meetups. Our first one will focus on early childhood education. We were planning to have it in December, but given the current situation, we maybe have to postpone that to January. And in the future, we want to do other topics like special education needs or upskilling of the workforce, because I think that's going to be a very big area of interest in the future. Esperanza does have an membership system, and if you're interested, you can take a look at our website and find out. And if you're interested in meeting some like-minded people who are passionate about education for the children, and I think a lot of the young parents are particularly interested in what we do, and we do have a lot of responses from them. So because I do believe that with everybody's help, with everybody together, working together, I think we can make a much better Hong Kong. Thank you very much.